Good afternoon and welcome to the Broadstone Homes Podcast. My name is Tristan Canada. I'm joined by the owner of Broadstone Homes, Mr. Dave Piron, and our guest today is the owner of Builders Drawing and Service, owner Steve Sincola.
All right.
Steve, thanks for joining us today. Before I get into any of the questions I have written down for you today, could you give us a little bit about your background, how you got started in your business, and stuff like that?
Well, I started Builders Drawing Services mostly. Initially, I was selling and supporting architectural software. And what I found was that a lot of the builders just didn't have the time to learn the software. Because it would take a good 6 months and a big, thick book. And I had the computer skills. They had the building skills. And so it was a good marriage. They just tell me what they want to build, and I'd draw it. And that's kind of how I got started.
Do you have to go to school for stuff like that nowadays, or?
Well, the software that I sold, the company had their own school. But as far as architecture, stuff like that, I've been doing this now for 20-some years. And I've worked with so many different builders and found out so many different ways on how they do different things that it's just, a pile of experience is what it amounts to.
What were you doing before?
Before that, I had a company. We sold computer systems, all in CAD. I've been doing computer-aided design, but mostly from a sales and support standpoint since I've been like 30, quite a while. At one point, I was working for a company called Prime Computer. Ford Motor had standardized on Prime computers for the engineering department. We had something like 600 computers in there. And some of them, and back then, we're talking back, it's quite a while ago. Engineering workstation back then would go for about $40,000.
Wow.
And then they had these data collectors. And so like inside Ford, a bunch of different people needed, like the engine guys, they need the chassis drawings, and the body guys, and, it all kind of works together. And so everybody had their own computers, and that's just kind of, what I did. I just supported the hardware at that point, though. Then I started my own company selling computer systems.
How long ago was that?
That was probably, was in my 40s, 30 years ago.
Okay. Nice. How did you get in contact with Dave, and how long have you guys been working together?
Well, Dave and I have been working together now for a couple of years. It's the same kind of a thing. He had some drawings that he needed to get done, and, I did them.
Mm-hmm. I would say a lot of the stuff that you've worked with me has been like drawings that we like modify drawings that I already have, or things that are pretty close, and then you kind of modify those and tweak them depending on the customers and the lots and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's actually, I first started working for a builder that was doing subs. And so he had a couple different models, and he wanted, 5 different looks of the same house. So we'd take one house and we'd come up with 5 different elevations, and he ended up with, 6 different models, and each model had 4 different looks. And I did that. I've done that for a number of builders where I've just done subs.
By subs, you mean what?
They're building 100 houses.
Oh, okay.
A subdivision.
Oh, I got you.
And like Dave was saying, they've got the same print, but they want to change it so that, they don't have the same house, cookie cutter kind of a thing like that. A lot of what I do with Dave, though, is like he was saying, is we'll change something around. We can do 3D modeling and stuff like that, and we kind of get an idea of what's gonna look like even before you drive a nail. So.
Nice. Do you prefer to draw new plans from scratch, or do you prefer to modify existing ones like Dave was saying?
I prefer to modify existing ones because there's once they've built it once, all the things that they need to change, they know. So
yeah, that's a big thing. Like when I'm doing complete customs, you don't really know. It's hard. It's a little bit harder because there's things that that are kind of unforeseen, and you don't really pick it up until you get into the mix of building that house, right? Like maybe sizes of rooms, sizes of things sometimes don't, like on paper, and you look at it, oh, we got 3 foot here, that should be plenty, or whatever, and then sometimes it just doesn't seem to really work out in real life. So when you get into those like real custom jobs, you run into like little things like that when like a lot of the stuff that we do, they're houses that we built a lot of times, and we're just adjusting a little bit here for maybe this customer wants a bigger master closet, right? Or they want a different elevation, maybe a bigger, front porch or something like that.
Yeah, it goes on and on, doesn't it? Let's make the great room bigger.
Yeah.
Let's make a 3-car garage or a 4-car garage. It's just...
And I mean, square footage has a lot to do with it too, right? Like we'll run into people that are trying to stay in a budget, but they really like this house that's 3,000 square feet. Is it possible to take this house and just make it, 2,000 square feet? So we do a lot of stuff like that,
Would I be wrong in assuming that you'd have to be really good at math? Why, like drawing and stuff? Would you have to know the dimensions of what you're drawing and stuff like that?
You have to be good at arithmetic. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. I don't know about any real advanced math.
Yeah.
Carpenters are pretty good at that. It's fractions and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they can look at that and pick it. They know it.
So you know the dimensions before you go in and map out something.
Well, a lot of it's depending on the lot. Sometimes you got to adjust the house because of the lot. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Right. How long does it typically take you to draw or modify a plan?
Yeah, that's a good one. To draw it is one answer. To modify it is another answer. I can generally draw a 2-story, let's say a 3,000 square foot house. I can usually draw that in like 2 days, 2 work days. Mm-hmm.
How long are those work days usually?
Yeah, 8 hours, let's just say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually get it done in about 60 hours.
Nice. Nice.
And that's usually like if he's got like some sort of drawing you're going off of, right?
Yeah.
Like so like if a customer found something like on the internet or something like that, they see, I really like this house, and it's kind of got like some floor plans to it and like a look to it. I believe that's what you're kind of saying, that you can draw in 2 days, right?
Right. Yeah, something like that where you don't have like on that kind of a thing, they'll have like a great room, 14 by 20. They just have a couple room sizes, and so when you get that kind of a print, you got to kind of scale things and get the rooms.
Right. But when it's like a complete custom, when you're dealing with somebody and they're just you're trying to gather information from them, I'm assuming that's way longer, right? Like there's just a lot more work to that.
Yeah.
And really understanding what they're trying to show you and tell you and all that kind of stuff. And
the nice thing about the 3D views of it is they'll think they want something, and then you just go ahead and draw it up and then show them a model of it, and they're like, oh, is that how that works? And yeah, that's how it works. And then they'll want to change it again. Yeah. So to come up with the initial bones of a plan, it might take, say, 12 to 16 hours or something like that. But once you got that, making the changes is quick. I mean, once as long as it's not changing like elevations and moving exterior walls, but you can move rooms around, and you do it so quick it's stupid.
Yeah, right.
And the time seems to be kind of more in the back and forth. Like, okay, let me see that. Let me look at it. Let me think about it. Let me look at the picture that was my inspiration. All right. And then there's that back and forth. It's usually what ends up eating a ton of time, it seems like.
Yeah.
Do you draw additions or accessory structures too?
Oh yeah, I've done additions. I've worked for remodelers and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And what are those? What are additions and accessory structures?
Well, like somebody maybe they just want to put another bedroom. I just did one up in Flint where the guy added 24 feet in, and he just wanted a big bedroom. Wanted a 24 by 24 foot bedroom. I don't know.
Big bedroom.
Yeah.
So when you go to do stuff like that, do you have to get measurements of the existing houses, like for an addition? Like, so you got to pretty much get the measurements from the existing house, almost kind of draw that plan with what they're thinking, or is what's the kind of the steps of that?
Because how that kind of works is. What I'll do is I'll draw the existing house and come up with a set of plans, and then you have existing, and then you show right next to it proposed, so they can go to the building inspector and they get an idea of what you're trying to do. This is how it looks now. This is how it's going to look when we're done. This is the addition. You don't necessarily have to draw all the parts of the house, but you do need the dimensions of the house.
So how does that work in pricing for you? Like, so I can see where, let's just say they wanted a 12 by 12 space. They want to put an extra bedroom on here. And I can see like a normal consumer thinking like, well, that can't be too expensive. But like if you got to draw the existing house and that, does that kind of affect the pricing on something like that?
Well, it just depends on how big of an addition. You know, some of these additions are the after product is nothing like the house that exists. I mean, you know, they're adding big decks, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, pricing wise, it just depends on what they're doing. So, you know, some are real simple. The guy wants to put a deck on the back of his house, and he's got to get a permit. You know, you got to have drawings. And so, what I like to do is make it simple for the inspector. And say, this is what it looks like now, and this is what it looks like when we get done. You know, I'll even put a big arrow on a big line on the drawing, existing, proposed, new, so they can. You know, if you just hand a guy a set of prints, and we're doing an addition, and he looks, well, what are you adding? You know, so you got to kind of make it, you know, distinctive as far as what you're actually doing.
All right. Now, Steve, what would you say is your greatest strength as a plan drawer?
Patience.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's probably a commodity that you have to have.
I would say that Steve is an extremely patient guy.
Yeah.
Just the amount that you are back and forth. You know, there's a lot of things like sometimes we have it drawn up originally the right way, and yet, you know, I'll come to him like, oh, we want to change this. Oh, no, wait, we got to go back. We like the other way better. You know what I mean? And sometimes that can be taxing when you're doing that constantly, you know, back and forth. And Steve always takes it in stride. You know what I mean?
How often would you say that happens?
All the
like
time. It used to drive me right up the wall. When I first started this a long while ago, the guy called me up and he's like, well, we want to move this door. And I'm like, well, when did this come out? Didn't you know you wanted to move the door, 2 weeks ago? But now that's just part of the game.
Yeah.
Moving walls and doors and windows, and, 2-car on the side, let's put it on the front instead,
I'd imagine that happens a lot because people see it and they're like, well, I don't like it there, or like, I don't like it there.
Well,
have to
I always tell my customers that it's always cheaper to pay for an extra sheet of paper than it is a bunch of 2x4s and drywall and everything if we want to move it later, right? Yeah. So, like, it's better for us to go through those plans multiple times and really get a good idea that this is what we want before we really start getting into it, you know?
Yeah, I know that when we were working on, I did a 3D image of, it was kind of a big house and a big great room, and I did a view from the kitchen out the back, and the client noticed, she wanted some windows. There's not enough windows in this place. Well, you really can't tell by looking at it on a piece of paper. But once you have a model of the actual
they really help.
Construction, it really helps.
Now, Steve, do you only work with builders?
Yeah.
Who else would want like a plan drawn out?
I mean, there's a lot of homeowners that I would say like they want to build and they like the idea of building, and a lot of times their first step before they even buy property is, well, maybe I should talk to someone about drawing up the plans that I've been dreaming about. You know what I mean? So, and I think there's a lot of that goes on. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And you also get the other ones that all of a sudden they want to be a builder. I'm just going to buy a lot and I'll do the general contracting. I'll just all myself. And I just soon stay away from that kind of a situation. I want to deal with people that know what they're doing. If I got a question, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? You get an answer. But if you're dealing with somebody that's never built anything, they're no help to me. Because like I said, my background is mostly in computers, in software and stuff like that. As far as building,
a lot of the trades have that same mindset too, like where they would rather work for a builder for a lot of the same reasons, right? Like, so when they call, the builder seems to always have an answer. Right, they know if they call a homeowner, it's probably 50-50 whether he knows even what you're talking about. And also, I know the trades are big on when they show up to a job and it's a builder. It's most of the time it's going to be ready, and the builder already knew what they needed. It's there, they verified. A lot of times, if it's a homeowner, they don't necessarily know what that trade or vendor needs. You know what I mean? So they'll try to do this scheduling, and then that only makes it harder for that trade to make money if he keeps having to come back. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even know how they pull it off, because even to know the people to do it.
Right.
Where do you come up with that list of? Because you look at all the trades you need.
Right.
You need cement guys and masonry guys and carpenters, finish carpenters. You know.
And two, a lot of times, which is beneficial for me, is I use a lot of the same guys. So they all communicate. They all know who likes to do what and how they like to do it, and they can kind of stay out of each other's way. And it just makes things way more smooth. When you're like a homeowner and you're trying to do that, these guys don't necessarily work with each other. You know what I mean? So when you're trying to bring all those people together, there's a lot of confusion.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so I'd really like to keep it to work with. You know, the company's called Builders Drawing Services, and I'm builders. You know,
Right, straightforward.
You know, and I've turned them down. And I work with builders.
How many jobs would you say you do like a month or a year? How many jobs are you usually averaging?
Well, it kind of varies. You know, usually in the summertime, I do a lot of the work between January and say like April. Then they're building. You know, you're doing the planning in the winter months, and then in the summer they're building. So most of my work is how many do I do a month? I don't know, not that many.
Yeah.
You know, maybe one a week or one every 2 weeks. You know.
That's because they are a little bit time consuming, a little bit.
Well, it's time consuming, yeah, and you want to, you know, I can draw a house up, you know, like that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you want to make sure everything's right.
Yeah, and then they're going to modify, so then it's going to take a little bit longer.
Right.
All right, Steve, well, I'm going to wrap this podcast up. I'm going to give you a second to just tell viewers and listeners where they could find you if they need your services and things like that.
Call Dave.
Yeah.
I feel like
Keep it simple.
I feel like a lot of people have that same kind of slogan. Just call Dave.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in today. We want to thank our guest, Steve, for joining us here. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Broadstone Homes, and give our YouTube channel a follow at Broadstone Homes as well. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.